This is the first of a 9-part presentation on U.S. history as it relates to public policy and African Americans. This is a 403-year history, which is extraordinarily complex, layered across the 3 levels of government: federal, state, and local. The public policy issues are extensive, such that these presentations are, at best, merely a starting point. The Norfolk 17 were selected as the cover for this module because of the pivotal role that students played to bring an end to Jim Crow segregation. It is hard today to imagine the courage and bravery that it took for high school students and younger to be in the vanguard of ending Jim Crow. Not only did they endure the sacrifice of the multiple court cases, but they then endured the harsh reality of integrating schools where they were unwanted, harassed, and threatened. These are truly the heroes of American history. The graphic in this slide represents 3 racial eras in the U.S. Slavery lasted for nearly 250 years. It ended with the Civil War and Reconstruction, a period of significant racial advancement. The Jim Crow era, however, was a violent backlash against Reconstruction and lasted over 100 years. Jim Crow ended with another brief period of racial advancements, the Civil Rights Movement. The modern era began in 1969. The backlash against civil rights was less overt than against Reconstruction. What we got was mass incarceration, voting disenfranchisement, and economic, social, and health inequities. This period is also known as colorblind racism. Notwithstanding continuing inequities, during the last 53 years, it has been unambiguously illegal to discriminate against African Americans. This is such for the first time in our 403 history and represents only the last 13% of our history. Only for the last 13% of our history has it been unambiguously illegal to discriminate against African Americans. Does the history of slavery still matter today? 41% of white people think not, but a majority, 58%, think that it does. 84% of African Americans think that the legacy of slavery continues to affect their lives. Slavery came to the New World in the region where ODU is located, Hampton Roads, Virginia, 403 years ago. In late August 1619, 20 to 30 enslaved Africans landed at Point Comfort, what is today's Fort Monroe in Hampton. The English privateer ship White Lion traded the Africans for supplies. The English had captured the stolen Africans from a Spanish ship involved in slavery. Thus, we had about 150 years of slavery before the United States was established as a country. It would then continue for about another 100 years. Initially, there were no public policies related to slavery. With the arrival of people taken from Africa and sold in the colonies, a body of public policies evolved. Under common law, the condition of a child was determined by the condition of the father. In the colonies, however, slaveholders could rape the women they owned, who would bear children, thereby increasing the number and value of the property of the slaveholder. Thus, Virginia's colonial government passed a law to protect this increase in property through rape by making the condition of the child dependent on the women who gave birth. Once an enslaved woman had a child, be it by rape or consensual sexual relations, not only was the child enslaved, but the owner could do whatever they wanted with the child. Imagine being kidnapped, bought, and sold as property. Your families being permanently separated, including young children taken from you and sold to others. Imagine rape, torture, and death. All legal, all committed without consequence. To get an insight into the lives of the people who were enslaved, we need to read their first-hand experiences. The Library of Congress holds such a collection of first-person accounts compiled in the 1930s and available online. The words and images that you will find will make your heart ache. The powerful writings and speeches of Sojourner Truth and Frederick Douglass and others captured the atrocity of slavery. Sojourner Truth, around age 9, was sold to a man named John Neely, who beat her regularly. She was sold 2 more times by age 13. Here is one of her famous quotes. Then that little man in black there, he says women can't have as much rights as men because Christ wasn't a woman. Where did your Christ come from? Where did Christ come from? From God and a woman. Man had nothing to do with him. A link to the full speech is within this module. Also within the module is a video of the descendants of Frederick Douglass reading his famous 4th of July speech, a scathing exposure of American hypocrisy. People enslaved were denied education. The Virginia Law of 1819 is one such example. When first discovered, these laws prohibiting education were perplexing. Then it became clear. If enslaved people could read, they might read this attack on oppression. There is no longer any room for hope. If we wish to be free, if we mean to preserve inviolate those inestimable privileges for which we have been so long contending, we must fight. I repeat it, we must fight. An appeal to arms and to the God of hosts is all that is left us. It is now too late to retire from the contest. There is no retreat but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged, their clanking may be heard. The war is inevitable, and let it come. I repeat it, sir, let it come. Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. The war is actually begun. Why stand we here idle? Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. Were these words to revolution from abolitionist, Nat Turner, Jim Brown, Sojourner Truth, Frederick Douglass? No, these were the words of Patrick Henry, which ended with, I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. The white men, the founding fathers, knew that had they been kidnapped and transported to Africa to live a life of slavery, they would have fought for their freedom. And if they would have fought, why shouldn't those they enslaved rise up and fight? In fact, the words of the founders provided a moral mandate to do just that. Slaveholders did not want the people they owned to read their own revolutionary words and to do what they had done. Patrick Henry and the other founding fathers knew that slavery was wrong and that they could not justify it, as Patrick Henry said, but for the general inconvenience of living without them. The general inconvenience of living without them.